Greetings, lethals and villains! So, the Miraculous Ladybug movie has been released on Netflix in the United States, and while I admittedly stopped watching the show by season 3, I figured giving this a try from what was shown in the small tidbits of news, and of course the trailer. I am not going to go into depth of the mess that is the TV show, as there's plenty of bigger and better channels out there that have covered a lot of the issues of the show in much better articulation than I can, and not be repetitive. Being a monster of the week formulaic type show isn't bad in of itself. There are plenty of series out there that have done this formula, and while I had some misgivings after the first season, I was alright with watching the next season because there have been shows with rough first seasons that would figure out what worked for them by their second or third season. From the second and parts of the third season, it showed the series had a lot of potential with its simple concepts. Even the mess of the love square showed that it could have worked, only for it to dig deeper and deeper and deeper into the mire as the episodes went on, and not moving on until towards the very end of the season 5. But my own patience kind of meandered and I just stopped watching. Without going into any real spoilers for the movie, this movie is sort of a AU do-over. They recognize some of the biggest issues people have had with the series and either decide to remove them or try to take them in a different direction to fix the issues. They don't fix all of the problems, but considering the limited format, 2 hours that they had to work with as opposed to 100 plus episodes, it's not bad for what we got. One of the biggest issues was Marina herself. She has been redone, of course, back to basics, as a klutzy girl who loves fashion and draws it in her free time, but at the same time her own clumsiness gives her into anxiety, which gives her a lot of self-esteem and confidence issues, and the film plays to that in the first act, as she's not willing to be a ladybug, not willing to answer the call, until Tiki forces the situation. It's a character that is easy for many people to latch on and sympathize. We want her to see overcome her own fears and be the hero that we do see in the TV series. And that it's not, Ladybug's not giving her a sudden personality change, as the show would more often do than not. Unfortunately, Adrian sadly does not get much of a reboot or development in this film, and that is one of the many flaws, but he still has a lot more agency than the show gave him in the second half of the Aggressor arc, and that's saying something. We aren't seeing his meeting with Plague for the first time, what made him decide to become Cat Noir. And, I don't know, it's just a huge missed opportunity. Though I do like kind of what we're given that, he's lost his mom, and he's kind of just withdrawn into the self because his dad pretty much just barely gives him the time of the day. And with his interactions with Ladybug, he starts, opening up his heart more and being more confident, even if he does get some bad love advice from his friends around him. While it is not fair to compare the animation of a TV show versus a film, it is something to be noted. They actually utilize the budget they are given to make something that looks beautiful in stills and in motion. More often than not, my problem with film tie-ins or TV movies, at least, back in the days when I was an outlet, is while the line work would look cleaner and more fluid, they never really utilized the larger budget that they had. It just never felt grand. It was just, it's a episode of the TV show with, more money to spend on. But the movie actually works with it. They actually, play with the lighting, they play with the detail work, they play with the setting, and they still maintain, the essential aesthetics of the show, but, it's really upgraded. And if you look at between that and TV show, it's like a huge, jarring experience. You just kind of don't want to go back, but, you can't really help that. And it doesn't feel like a Disney clone, which is still kind of a problem even back in my time. The cast of the movie focused on, much smaller compared to the show, but that helps a lot better because it focuses on Marinette and Adrian's relationship, as well as their own past, being superheroes. Also, Chloe is a riot and has some of the funniest dialogue in the entire film, even if she, Alia, Nico, and Celine don't really contribute as much to the progression of the story, but they still provide some of the best comedy in film and don't overstay their welcome. Also, the relationship between the two leads is just so cute and natural. It reminds me a lot of Flynn's and Rapunzel's relationship and Tangled. The less square is still kind of there, but it feels more tragic and a lot less cringy. And it was, when it ended, it felt, sweet and earned. It's still not as addressed as well as it could have been, but I'm going to get that into the flaws later in this video. And speaking of the ending, it is a little corny and arguably a little fanficky. But since, love is one of the biggest themes in both the show and the movie, it doesn't feel like it comes out of a left field, unlike what they did with Frozen. And sure, it's not as satisfying as it could be, and it needs a little more time to breathe. But it's a fun, simple film, and it's not trying to be this major, complex story with twists and morals to think about. It kind of just didn't really need to, and that's okay. That being said, the film is not perfect. While it addresses many of the flaws the show had dug itself into, it does come with its own problems. The one that stuck with me the most was the songs. Now, the songs themselves are not bad. I mean, they're not earworms, but I do need to give them a second listen. But they're not like, oh my god, when is this thing gonna be over? I don't know, I'm surprised Christina Fee did not sing Marionette's songs since she is a singer herself. Now, the problem with the song is that there's too many of them, and unfortunately they disrupt the pacing. Now, there's a total of 10 songs, with 2 of them being in the credits, leaving 8 of them in the film itself. At least 3 of these songs could have been cut out and replaced with 1 or 2 lines of dialogue. Those being Courage and Me, Reaching Out, and unfortunately Chaos Will Reign. And especially with Courage and Reaching, they just bring the film to a halt. Yeah, no, not necessarily bad, but they just take you out of the experience. Which also plays into the film's other issue, which is pacing and bloating. It suffers a similar problem to the Super Mario movie in that it goes too fast, where it jumps from scenario to scenario and doesn't give certain emotional scenes the time they need to breathe. Some of the issues can be, again, solved by removing some of the song numbers, and also giving some of that screen time to Adrian. Also, the film feels a bit like a first draft. From the first act, we're given the impression that Mary needs to overcome her own anxieties and step up to the plate. And while that's done nicely in the first act, it is dropped in the second act. And only for it to suddenly pop back in, kind of jarringly, in the third act. Even her call to action in the second act just feels a bit murky. She's not aware that Alia and Nico are in danger, and her father, who was right there, just disappeared from the scene. Even Gable Agrest flipped between the tragic and kooky villain with odd pacing, and it's sad because a lot of it was also fixed. It just tugs between being an alternate reality and a TV movie, which caused a lot of pacing and thematic messes. And the film was just close, so close, but these problems just hold it back from being a lot better than it could have been. Still, it's a cute, fun little flick that had a very clear goal of what it was trying to do, and while it stumbles to get to the finish line, it doesn't quite do everything. It's satisfied enough. Play a little safe? Yeah. Can it expand and move on from there? Oh yeah. It's definitely a flawed film, even if you're not familiar with the show. It's serviceable. Also, it's a lot better than Avatar.